Hey guys, look at this beautiful turkey. I'll tell you what, if you're looking for something really tasty for your holiday, for your special occasion, give this recipe a try. You're going to love this bird. Trust me, this one's a really delicious bird. Hey guys, welcome back to Texas Cooking Today. On this episode, we're making a turkey. Now, turkey is delicious. Turkey is North America. This is where turkeys came from, okay? And they're fantastic. What we do is we cook these things up for our holidays and use it as a very special meal. And that's what it is. It's a special and delicious flavor. And when it's done right, it's juicy, it's delicious, and it's everything that good holiday food should be. Good celebration food. I've got a lot of fantastic ingredients out here. Let's go over what I've got these things out here for. And let's cook up the very best turkey that you're ever going to put in your mouth. Come on over. Let's start with the bird. I have here what's referred to as a young turkey. This is about a medium-sized turkey. This one is about 13.5 pounds. These little guys, they get up in the neighborhood of 30 pounds on the bigger ones. And of course, you know, the young ones like this, medium, and you can get much smaller ones. But frankly, I find this medium-sized turkey cooks really well. I would much rather do two 13 or 14 pound turkeys than to even consider using one of the big boys, because you know they're older, they're a little tougher. It's just not as good a turkey. So a younger bird, you're going to get a better flavor. Back behind this, I've got some cornbread, and I have made up some biscuits, and those are just for another recipe. I'm going to be making some dressing with some of the drippings that come off of this bird, and that's one of the best things about this, is you can combine these wonderful other things that are made with the drippings and other things from this bird. Let's get on to these other ingredients. Down here, I have what we refer to as aromatics. When you're cooking a bird, often we'll put in what we call aromatics. Rosemary is an aromatic. It's a very strong scent. So is garlic, and so is lemon. They both provide beautiful odors and flavor, and when you put them up inside of the carcass of an animal and cook that animal, it releases in the form of a vapor the flavors and the odors that are in these, and it just flavors the meat in a subtle but very, very wonderful way. So we have our aromatics to go inside. Some of this rosemary is going to be chopped up and used with some thyme and with some sage, and I'm going to mix them into this. A lot of people like to use butter for this. Now I'm going to explain why we're going to use lard here in a little bit, but I'm using lard. Some folks like to put bacon on their turkeys. The whole idea behind putting either butter or lard or bacon or whatever onto or inside of a turkey is to lock in moisture. These are big birds. They take some time to cook, and you're going to need something that's going to help seal in moisture, and if you have something that gives flavor while that's happening, even better. So folks use butter. Sometimes they put bacon over the outside of it, but I find you don't get that beautiful skin that way. So I'm going to teach you a way of getting the fabulous flavor of bacon, also the juiciness that putting bacon over the outside of a bird gives, and still getting that beautiful skin. So the lard gives us that flavor, that sort of pork bacony like flavor, and of course we're going to have our herbs in there to help flavor the bird, and a little bit of salt too. In my pan under the bird, we need something in there too. So I have some water and wine. I'm using white wine and water, about 2 cups. The reason I'm putting the wine in there, a couple of reasons. Number one, it's going to give flavor. Number two, it's going to add a little bit of acid to the drippings from the bird, and that acid will bring out additional flavors, and it's fantastic, but it works best when it's cooked with it. So we put the wine in the pan to create a better quality drippings. In this bowl, I have what's referred to as the giblets. In the South, we say giblets, okay? So if you hear somebody say giblets, don't laugh at them. It's just a different way of speaking, okay? So anyway, I have in here the giblets and the neck. Now, giblets are really simple. That's your gizzard, it's the heart and liver, and those are normal internal organs that are eaten from many different animals. In this case, I don't really care about any of these meats. There's not enough in there to really feed anybody. But there's a lot of flavor in this little bowl. And I'm going to save this stuff and cook it up separate, and we're going to be making a fabulous gravy with these items. The neck, the meat, is going to go into the dressing that I'll be making later in another show, and it's going to all just come out with super fabulous flavors. That's what this is saved for, strictly for flavor. When you open up your turkey, you're going to find a bag with these items right here inside of it. Don't throw those away. Save them. You need them. Now let's get right on to fixing up this bird. Let's go ahead and get that fat prepared. Now again, turkeys are a really, really lean bird. And like I said before, we're going to use fat to help seal in flavor and moisture, and it's going to add some flavor too. As I mentioned, some folks use bacon on the outside. Some people do butter for this. There's a lot of different ways of doing this. And what I'm going to show you is one that offers certain benefits. On my herbs that I'm using, first thing is some thyme. And I'm going to put into this about 1 tablespoon of thyme. I'm going to add approximately 1 tablespoon of sage. And then we're going to want some of this rosemary. And 1 to 2 tablespoons of the rosemary is going to be more than sufficient. Now if you'll notice, I'm chopping stems and everything, and that's okay. Remember, this is to provide flavor. It's not going to be so much people are going to be chomping on anything here. There we go. I have about 2 tablespoons of chopped rosemary. That's about 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm going to increase it to 1 teaspoon. If you're using that dry rosemary, what you're going to want to do is to put it in a mortar and pestle. And that's because, you know, those leaves, when they're dry, they're very, they're tough and they're woody. And they're not going to break down well in cooking. So I find it's best just to go ahead and mill them into a nice rubbed powdery state and then put them in. So what I have here isn't necessarily attractive, is it? However, attractive or not, this is all about flavor. This isn't about being pretty with something that we're going to flavor this bird with. Now, I believe I've worked that through well. I can start stuffing my bird with it. Now, when I'm preparing my bird, there's several things I need to do. Not really difficult things, but we need to get them taken care of. I need to get the fat under the skin so that it will keep the bird moist and flavorful. I need to get the legs tied together. I need to get these wing tips so they're not sticking up so they don't burn, and we're done with it at that point. So the first thing I want to do is I think I want to deal with those wing tips. Let me show you something you can do. And this is pretty much on any kind of bird you're dealing with. On turkeys, you have a large flap of skin right here. So what I want to do is gently pierce that skin, just like so. There. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. There we are. Poke those holes here and here. And I want to use this, put it on my finger, and just take my finger and push it right up through the hole I made in the little wing. There we go. Put it through the other one. There we are. So now I have this string here. My wing's back in there. The nice thing about doing this way is it keeps this delicate wing meat tucked underneath the bird. It allows the juices to flow down into this, and it keeps them nice and moist. Beautiful thing to do. So I've tied that off, but those wingtips are still going to be sticking up. So I'm going to twist them right behind its back, and if I have to break that joint a little bit, that's fine. Don't worry about that. Bring him up, just like so. That extra string, I can cut that off, and I'm done with it. Let's turn our bird over. Our wings are dealt with. We're done with that part of it. Now I have the fat I need to get in there. So let me pull this up. Here's where I need those gloves. This fat, we're going to shove it right up under the skin. Now before I do that, I just remembered this, I would need to make some space. So what I'm going to do is put my hand, see how I'm working the hand up under the skin there? Don't be afraid of doing this. What I'm doing is just opening it up, making some space to get my lard up in there. Now, I've got space. Take about half of that lard, we'll pack it up in here, just like so. And don't worry about being neat about this. It just needs to be in there. My skin tore a little bit. Such is life in the big city, right? Don't worry about that. There we go. As I said, nothing pretty about it, but once the bird is cooked, that's not going to matter. Now I need my other string. I've got a bit of a mess here, but that's again okay. Let's tie up that back leg. And the other one. So I've got this flavorful fat going on in here. Now I've got just a little bit of fat left, and I'm going to want to use it on the outside. Too bad my skin tore. If I wanted to be picky, I could stitch it together, but guess what? I'm not going to lose my mind on this, all right? Now I have my open cavity. We're going to put the aromatics down inside of there. Before I do that, I'm going to dry this gently. The reason I'm drying it is to help the rest of that fat set up on that skin. There we are. I'm just going to give my bird a gentle rub with this. There we go. Wasn't that easy? Not hard. We have a thin layer of fat on the outside, a good layer of fat under the skin. It's going to flow down into the meat and flavor it and make it wonderful. Let's go ahead and stuff our bird with our aromatics. As I mentioned before, we have some different items. Got some lemons, I have rosemary, and I have some garlic. And the garlic, just take a knife and split the whole thing right in half, just like that. Isn't that beautiful? We're throwing it all right up in there. These lemons, quarter them. If you notice, I'm not being pretty about this. These are aromatics. There's nothing special about this part of it. So we're going to toss some lemons in here, get some garlic in there, more lemon. Wow, that smells good. Get my rosemary stuffed up in that carcass. More lemons, more garlic. Don't worry about that paper. There we are. We've got us a bird filled with aromatics and ready to get in the oven. Now I've got my oven at 325 degrees. My bird, I'm going to get that fat right over on top of this. Look at that. Keep that moist. It'll be good. Never throw away fat if you see it on a turkey. Just keep it there and allow it to render down into this pan. Before it goes in the oven, let's put some moisture in the bottom of the pan. It'll provide steam to help steam the bird and keep it moist. In addition, it's going to add flavor to our broth. All right. Wine and water into the pan. Our turkey is now ready for the oven. That was easy, wasn't it? So the bird goes in the oven. All right. There we go. Turkey is in the oven and we're up and cooking. Now we have to wait some number of hours. I have this at 350. I have a 13.5 pound bird and we're looking roughly about 3.5 hours of cook time. I want an internal temperature between 165 and 185. Perfect. To stuff or not to stuff? Some people might be asking, why didn't you put the stuffing inside the bird? That way, when you cook the bird, the stuffing gets the drippings from the bird as it cooks and it flavors it. Absolutely true. However, if you're making your stuffing with the drippings from the bird, you're going to get that same flavor in it in either way. The advantage to not cooking with the bird heavily stuffed, you want heat to get up inside of the cavity and cook the meat from both sides so you get even cooking. If it is stuffed with something really dense like a stuffing, well, then you're going to run into a problem where you have an uneven heat distribution. Easy to get the outside of the bird and the meat cooked, but the problem is a lot of dressing uses egg in it. They put raw egg in it and you have it stuffed in the middle of this bird and then it doesn't get hot enough. So then you have egg that was improperly heated and dangerous. It's really, really better to prepare that dressing in a separate pan, not inside the bird. I know people are going to argue with me about this, but the truth is what it is. I can still get the flavors I want cooking that dressing separate. And I'm going to get a more even cook on my bird, simply by not having it stuffed with something really dense and hard to heat. Folks, this is just a matter of physics when you get down to it. I'm taking heat energy, the heat in my oven, and pushing it into the item I'm trying to cook. So I'm trying to get heat in the middle, and I need to get that center temperature up to a certain degree before it's done. If I have stuffing in there and the stuffing takes an extra hour, hour and a half to get it cooked, by that time that meat on the outside of the turkey is starting to get a little dried out. Some people say, yeah, but I've solved that by simply putting bacon over it. Yeah, you can do that, but then that's a lot. I mean, if you think I used a lot of lard, think about a whole bunch of bacon covering the whole bird. It gives good flavor, it keeps the bird moist, but it isn't necessarily the best option. What we're looking for is to get sort of a perfect balance going on here. Even cooking, juiciest meat, best flavors. I can't get aromatics inside of my bird if it's stuffed with bread and cornbread and bread and other items like that. Don't want to do it that way. So we're off to the start that makes this the right way. You've got that fat, that lard up in there that the bacon would have done for you, putting it over the outside. But on this method, we get a better brown skin. You like that part of it. So we just got to give it time now. Don't worry about rushing dressing when you're cooking a turkey. When you're doing all of this, that turkey, after it cooks, it doesn't need to rest for 20 or 30 minutes. Some chefs have said the turkey should rest as long as it cooks. So if you cook it for 3 hours, you should rest it for 3 hours. The way I do it is I cook the turkey, pull it out, and it sits there and rests while I then start making my gravy and my dressing. And in the amount of time it takes to produce that, I find that my bird gets the right rest time. Either way, the longer the rest time, the better the flavor, and really, really, really good chefs, any of us, are going to tell you the same thing. The longer the rest time, the better. Give it plenty of time. I've got a mess to clean up, folks, and then we'll get on to making the giblet gravy. We have to boil those giblets up, get them cooked nice and tender. As my items are cooking in the oven, I need to go ahead and cook up my giblets. So I'm going to put all of that right in there. I'm going to add just a little bit of salt. It's about a half a teaspoon, maybe 3/4, somewhere in there. A couple cups of water. If I need to add a little more water, that'll be fine. I can do that. This is a simple preparation. All I have to do is cover this and gently simmer it until the neck meat is falling off of the bone. When I reach that point, then everything is ready. Remember, these are being cooked up for one specific purpose, for flavor, and these are flavor. plain, simple, good old-fashioned flavor. All right, guys, go ahead and get some eggs in some water and onto some heat. Now, what we want to do is bring these up to a boil. As soon as this comes to a boil, I'm going to turn the heat off, cover it. I'm going to let them stand for 10 minutes, and then we're going to transfer these to some cold water, a bowl of cold water. At that point, the eggs will gently cool down, and after about 10 to 15 minutes that way, we're ready to peel them. Now, we're going to need these hard-boiled eggs for both the giblet gravy as well as for our dressing. Guys, I have just pulled my bird out of the oven. It's still steaming. It is beautiful. And I tell you what, we have an absolutely gorgeous turkey here. All I have to do now is make us some dressing and some giblet gravy. And here's the trick on this. Making that gravy, we're in no rush. Making the dressing, I'm in no rush. This thing has plenty of resting time to go through. It needs to sit there, so just let it hang out, let it rest. Remember, the longer a turkey rests, the better. And if you let it rest the same amount of time that it was in the oven, the flavors that it's going to give you in return are incredible, because it pulls in the flavor from that skin and all kinds of other stuff happening here. So it's taking in what it had pushed out. Give it a little time, be patient with it. Let the aromatics inside of it finish doing what they're doing. That's what that steam is coming from. It's coming from that hollow cavity back here. And it's absolutely unbelievable smelling. So just let it do what it does. Give it time. Now let's go ahead and save back the drippings from that turkey. I don't want a lot of the solid material that's in this, so I'll have a strainer to catch it. You don't have to run it through a strainer. You get to if you have one, but you don't have to. There we are. That allowed me to get a lot of that out of there. And I have a much cleaner liquid. Although all of this stuff is flavor, so don't be afraid of it. If you do happen to have that in yours, it's not a problem. We need to go ahead and get those gizzards processed out. Now, cook these things up. And like I said, there's nothing pretty about this. However, it's all a matter of a flavor profile that we're looking for. What I want to do is to fine chop all of this. I don't want anything left whole. And if you're thinking that looked a little pink, trust me, it's fully cooked. This was cooked up for about an hour and a half, gently simmered until everything was just right. When I said fine chop, I meant fine. You don't want big chunks of this. Okay, now I'm going to return all of this to the pan that I took it from, back into those same juices. And also, if you remember, we have extra egg cut up. Now that extra hard-boiled egg is important. I need this in the gravy, but it's not going to be cooked in. It gets put in at the end of cooking the gravy, because we want the flavor of this egg to be intact when we get it to that gravy. This sets aside until the end of the gravy cooking, and then we just simply stir it in. Let's go ahead and get this gravy going. Now I'm going to put a flame underneath my front burner here, and I want that to be a medium flame to start with until I get this up to a nice high simmer. Then I'm going to pour in this turkey drippings. There we go. After this comes to a boil, I then want to put in a thickener, and the thickener I have chosen for this one, remember this is an old world recipe, so we're using old world methods. A little bit of flour, I've got it in a shaker. I'm going to put some water in there and shake it up, pour it in this to thicken it. When we shake water in this, if you put hot water in there and shake it, the container's going to explode, okay? Now, I'm not talking about the metal flying apart and fragmenting and that kind of thing. No, I'm talking about if you put hot water in flour and shake it, it causes it to expand suddenly. It'll blow the lid off and you're going to have a shower of hot flour water all over the place. So unless you just want a really huge mess in your kitchen, keep it simple with this. Cold water goes in to that shaker. Our liquid has now come up to a boil. I'm going to go over here. Let's put a little water in our shaker so you'll know how much. I've put 1/2 of a cup in my shaker. I'm going to pour in about a cup to a cup and a half of water. That lid on it and shake. Remember, only cold water. I'm making a little bit of a mess. I'll take my flour water and let's pour it right down in here. I'm not pouring all of it in there, only about half. I'm going to let it come back to a boil, and if I need to thicken it more, I may. So we'll give that just a couple of minutes, and I bet that'll probably do the majority of it for me. This is important. Take a spoon, put it down in here. You can look at your consistency this way. How well is it coating that spoon? Let me taste this. That flavor is really, really good. Okay, it's almost where I want it. I'm putting in just a little bit of salt. There we go. I want to add just a little more of my flour water. Not much, maybe an ounce and a half. And again, bring it to a boil. At this point, what I'm going to do is just let this sit and simmer. I'm going to simmer it for about 5 to 10 minutes. The idea there is you want to cook out the flavor of that flour. You don't want it to have a raw flour flavor in the background at all. The only way to get rid of that is to cook it off. So that's what we're going to do right now. A beautiful gravy to go with a beautiful turkey. Didn't that come out nice? Our gravy has now thickened up. I'm dropping the heat to it. I'm going to pour in my egg. All I need to do is just gently stir the egg in, like that. And there we go, folks. That is finished. I'll set it aside, let it rest until everything is finished. Well, guys, there it is. One beautiful turkey. Look at that bird. I mean, that is some serious business right there. You know, think of it as I was mentioning to you earlier, when I said go ahead and let it rest, and how that meat would come out so beautiful, and it's tender and delicious. Oh man, I think the only thing better, look how tender that is. A little bit of gravy. Heavenly. And the flavors, got all these herby flavor in it, and a nice background of just, like I said, light hint of that bacony, kind of ham-like flavor that's from that lard. Man, oh goodness, I'm going to be enjoying this. I'm going to be gobbling it down is what I'm going to be doing. Folks, I really hope you give this a try. This turkey is delicious. It's worth having. Thank you very much for watching Texas Cooking Today and watching this show. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you very, very much. If you haven't subscribed, why not? There's great recipes coming out all the time. Give it a try. And please, folks, please share my recipes. That's the best way for me to grow this. Folks, have a good day. Goodbye. Hey guys, thank you for watching Texas Cooking Today. Do appreciate it. If you would, please subscribe. If you like this, just click like down there, and if you would, I would really appreciate it if you add me to your favorites. Thank you.